friends, welcome back to my channel and welcome to another speed build. So for today's video, we are building something that I've actually been wanting to do for a very long time, but never really knew how to go about it exactly. And for this one, I just kind of dove straight in and started building a retirement home. I think this one came out really fun. We're building in the world of San Sequoia, the growing together world, which is a world I do not appreciate enough, by the way. Why do I not build here more often? I know I recently did another build here, a autumnal family home. That was really fun, and now I'm back for a retirement home building here on a 40 by 30 in the world of San Sequoia, and this is in the neighborhood where the rec center is located as well. There is a really beautiful lake here, or like kind of like a large pond, kind of like it holds the middle between a lake and a pond, I want to say. And there's some really fun, I guess, like there's a little trail around it, so Sims can actually go for power walks or just, you know, little walks or jogs around the lake or the pond. And I thought that would be the perfect location for a retirement home, so that is why we're building it here. This is also slightly inspired by the new pack Adventure Awaits, because in the gameplay trailer they did show off some presets that they have for custom venues that are going to come with that pack, which is also very exciting. And one of the presets that they have, I think it said something like senior living or like a senior something. I'm not exactly remembering what it said, but I was feeling super inspired by that. And I guess even though we don't really know what that's going to be all about, I still thought it would be fun to build some sort of retirement center here that is obviously also functional if you don't have, or if you're not planning on getting the new pack. If you have for rent, I think that this would make a really fun residential rental, because it actually has 4 little studio apartments, or 4 just really tiny apartments, and then there is a lot of community or like shared spaces here as well. So you could potentially just use this as a residential rental with a bunch of shared spaces, and then you'll just have some neighbors here in the place as well. I think that would just be so much fun. But yeah, I've never done a retirement build or a retirement home build before, so this is definitely a first for me. And I was definitely going about it as sort of like a recreation center, if you will. Like, in a way, it doesn't function as a rec center because a rec center actually requires some gym equipment. And I didn't put any gym equipment in this build because we all know what happens when you work out with your elderly Sims too much. It might be the end of them. And we don't want that. The only gym related thing I put in here is a pool. Actually, I thought that would be really fun because, you know, I could totally see the elderly Sims just going for laps, like swimming laps early in the morning, which obviously also is a fitness skill related activity. So don't do it for too long or too often, because I think that could still be the end of your elderly Sims, and we don't want that here. I mean, maybe you do want that. I don't know what kind of gameplay you're into, you know what I mean? It could be chaotic and fun that way as well. But yeah, I thought a pool would be cute anyway. And then I just really wanted there to be so many things to do. Obviously, I wanted there to be games. So we have a room with a few game tables. I think I ended up placing 4 4-seater game tables here. We also have just like a communal dining room area where we have a bunch of tables and chairs that can be used for dining, obviously, like dining together, having breakfast together. I thought that would be really cute, but also I feel like Sims would just kind of sit there, hang out. There's also a bar in that space because the elderly Sims also deserve to hang out at a bar from time to time, or maybe daily, you know, I don't know. So they have that. There's also a shared kitchen that's set up in a way where I thought it'd be fun if they could have cooking classes in there. So it is a kitchen with, I think, a total of 4 stoves. I'm not exactly sure, or maybe it was just 2. I'm not really remembering what I did. It's a really big build and it took me a minute to finish this actually. But yeah, we do have, no, I think it's a total of 4 stoves. Yeah, 4 stoves, a couple of fridges and sinks and whatnot. And it's basically set up in a way where they can just cook together, or they can actually have a class, because I also placed a whiteboard in there. The whiteboard from Businesses and Hobbies that allows you to actually do lectures and classes classes on all kinds of topics. So I thought it'd be really fun if they could maybe just hire someone for cooking classes, or maybe one of the elderly Sims that lives here was a former chef or whatever, and they can actually do, like, they can organize the cooking classes, like the workshops. That could be so cute. So that is something that I was thinking of here as well. Then we also have a second floor with a more crafty area. So there's a living room set up in a way where it's perfect for knitting, cross stitching. So I just placed a bunch of those items, and it's very cozy the way I set it up, in my opinion. I think it turned out really fun. So we have cross stitching there. There's also a small TV so they can have some background noise when they're knitting. Maybe they can watch some soap operas, you know, that sort of thing in the meantime. And then there's also a arts and crafts room where I set up a bunch of easels and pottery wheels as well. So, you know, there's all kinds of creative things going on here, all kinds of classes, hobby get-togethers. I don't know. I think it would just be so cute to actually play this, especially as a residential rental. And if you just move in only elderly Sims here, you can only have a total of 4 elderly Sims live here though. Well, actually, technically you could have 2 Sims in each little studio apartment, because each studio apartment does have a double bed. So technically you could have a couple in each apartment, but I just thought it'd be so much fun. In my brain, all the Sims that live here would be like single elderly Sims, and maybe you could play through some drama with them, some chaos. I just think that that would be so fun. I feel like in a retirement home, lots would be going on. You know, there would be lots of things happening. There would probably be a lot of gossiping as well. I feel like that is just kind of dramatic in that way. That's what I like to think in my head, though I'm not sure if that is actually the case, obviously, but that's kind of what I was pretending for The Sims. A little bit of chaos is always a good thing in this game. So that's kind of what I was going for. In the back off of the kitchen, we're also going to have a really small gardening area, because I thought it would be cute for Sims to be able to do some gardening here as a little outdoor activity. And then they would have like fresh produce for their cooking classes or for whatever they're cooking together. I thought that would be really fun as well. I also gave them the little insect houses from Eco Lifestyle, which I always think are a little bit disgusting, but you know, I had the space for it and I was like, I don't know, maybe these elderly Sims are into insects. I don't know, it could be kind of fun. So yeah, that's what I was going for. And I really think this one turned out so much fun. It took me a minute to build this, so I hope you'll have something to drink, a snack, maybe both, because we're gonna be here a little while. This is definitely a big one to do. Also, I know it's not necessarily very realistic maybe that this is a 2-story building for the community areas. The craft room and the knitting room are upstairs actually. But this is The Sims, and elderly Sims don't run into any issues when it comes to walking up and down the stairs. So, you know, I just embraced that and ran with it. So that is what we're doing for this one. I would have put like an elevator. I feel like that could be kind of fun, but I don't think you can do that outside of apartments, if I'm not mistaken. I don't actually know. I've never tried it before. But in my head, I was kind of imagining that there would be an elevator here, obviously, as well. But you know, there's not actually one here, so we're just gonna have to pretend or embrace the fact that elderly Sims don't have any issues when it comes to walking up and down the stairs, and that's just what we're gonna go with. But for the main vibe, I guess, of the exterior of this build, I really try to embrace the modern, growing together, modern San Sequoia aesthetic, if you will. So not necessarily the very like suburban aesthetic, but more the modern aesthetic. So that's what I'm going for. I use some of those bigger windows from Growing Together, mainly in the back of the building though, so you can't really see them. But I paired them with those modern windows from Businesses and Hobbies. I actually ended up using a lot of Businesses and Hobbies for this build because it was just really such a great vibe when it comes to colors and styles. It ended up being quite retro on the inside. I wasn't necessarily planning on that, but it kind of just ended up happening, I guess. So we have a lot of retro vibes going on for the interior style-wise. So yeah, and it's very colorful too, which was definitely a step out of my comfort zone. But I was like, how are we gonna make this fun? And I just decided to make it very, very colorful and definitely embracing some of those warmer wood tones. You can tell by the colors that I used for the exterior. The paneling that I used is this really reddish brown that I love when it comes to more retro 70s, you know, mid-century type of builds. So that's kind of what I was embracing here as well. And I'm also using a lot of platform roofs, so a lot of flat roofs going on. Also some gabled roofs, so we have a little mix of things going on here. Here in the back, you can see that I used some of those windows. I think those are so pretty, but in the front, I just didn't really have any space for them, so I ended up just using them in the back, which I think works perfectly fine. And I actually also created some really beautiful sun or skylights. I always say sunlights. It's skylights. Skylights is the word. I created some skylights in the roof. I started by doing just one for the arts and craft room. I thought that would be so good to have a lot of like natural daylight coming through. And then I realized I have so much more space here for more skylights. So I actually did one on the other side as well which is where we're gonna have the knitting room area. So there's lots of natural daylight coming through on the second floor of this building, which I just think is so, so fun. And for this one, it was really a lot of trial and error. You can kind of tell that it took me a minute to actually figure out the exterior. It was just kind of like a puzzle because I didn't really have anything to go off. I just started building. I did not have a reference picture for this one. I just knew that I wanted to have a interesting shape, kind of like a modern building with a pool out front. That's kind of what I could visualize in my mind. And I wanted it to be mostly just ground floor, like one story. But for all the activities that I wanted, I did need to have 2 stories for at least a part of this build. So that's exactly what ended up happening, actually. And I just started building. I just started adding on little boxes onto other boxes and little bump outs onto bump outs. And yeah, there ended up being a lot going on shape-wise. But I don't know, I'm really happy with how this one came together. And I also used these pool lines. I never used these. I actually kind of didn't even realize they existed until someone suggested them to me when I was building this over on Twitch. So I thought that would be so cool because I really wanted this to look like a lap pool, you know, and I think that really works when you have those lines on the floor of the pool. And then here I went with my second skylight. It just worked out so nicely. And someone also suggested this dark blue color for the roofing, which is a roofing texture that came with Businesses and Hobbies. And I don't think I've ever used this particular color. I'm so boring when it comes to roof colors. I always go for gray or black. Sometimes when I'm feeling wild, I'll do like a dark brown, but we don't have a lot of textures that come with a dark brown swatch. So I don't do that very often, but sometimes I'll do that. Or when I'm doing Mediterranean style houses, for example, I'll sometimes do like a red or orange kind of colored roof. But that doesn't really happen very often either. So usually it's just gray or black. I'm very boring like that. And then someone suggested a dark blue for this one, which actually worked out so nicely, paired with that red wood tone for the paneling, and then the white details like the white windows and white like sliding doors and everything. It just really, really ended up working out so, so nicely. And I was also looking for the right signs to use, and thankfully Growing Together actually comes with a bunch of really good signs. So that was perfect. That really ended up working out as well. And then obviously I just had to place some like lights and things outside to really make it look good at night as well. And yeah, the exterior for this one is really coming together. By the pool here, I just wanted there to be like a communal outdoor hangout space. So I went for a couple of tables and chairs. These chairs that I'm using, I think are from the Backyard Stuff Pack or the Perfect Patio Stuff Pack. I'm really not remembering. I think it's Perfect Patio actually. And those chairs come in the perfect swatch in that reddish brown as well. So obviously that's what I had to use. And someone in chat, one of my friends, actually suggested a kiddie pool for Sims to just kind of lounge around in. I thought that would be so fun, so I added one of those as well. Actually, my plan at first was to also have some playground equipment and stuff outside for whenever grandkids come to visit. And I also wanted to have some like creativity tables and stuff upstairs for kids to use for whenever grandkids come over. I just simply did not end up having any space for any kids items. So there's no stuff for grandkids here. So when the grandkids come to visit, you'll just have to, I guess, hang out at the rec center, which I feel like actually works out because those places are very much catered towards all ages, I want to say. That's kind of how they meant for it to work as well. I think when I go by like the trailer for Growing Together, if I'm remembering correctly, it was a lot of kids and elderly Sims featured as well. So yeah, I feel like going over to the rec center, which is literally right across, well, not right across the street, but really close by, just like a little walk away. So I feel like that could work out really nicely. And then on the other side of the pond, there's actually that splash pad water park type thing in this world as well. So there's a lot to do for kids in the area, which I feel like works out fine too. We're actually moving on to the interior of this building. I started off by doing all the shared spaces, obviously, because that's what I was most excited about. And yeah, so we have this entryway here. I just used this white sliding glass door as the front door, which is nice and modern vibes, I want to say. And you can already tell by the wallpapers that I used that this is going to be a very colorful build. I'm using a light wood floor because I've never used this particular swatch of this flooring before, which is kind of crazy to me. I don't know why, but I've never used it before. It's a really beautiful color though. And I thought it'd be nice to have like a neutral light floor and then combine that with a bunch of that reddish wood tone that I'm going for. And I ended up using a lot of stuff, or not a lot of stuff, but a couple of items from Tiny Living, which was so fun to revisit. The Tiny Living stuff used to be my favorite, and I just haven't used it in so long. So I was so happy when I came across those dining room tables with the white and blue stripes on the seating, like cushions. Those were so perfect and like the exact color scheme that I needed in here, because I'm using this like light yellow, kind of pastel yellow or butter yellow, is that the word for it? Wallpaper in here, the red paneling, the red brownish paneling. I'm using blue a lot in here as well. You can kind of tell in the kitchen, what's going to be the kitchen area. I use those subway tiles that are blue, that are base game subway tiles. Actually, I really, really love those tiles. I think they look so good in there. So yeah, we have a lot of yellow and blue and darker, warmer wood tones going on here for this area specifically. So yeah, you can kind of tell probably that this is going to be the shared dining room space. So we have 2 6-seater tables, but I actually ended up deleting 2 chairs because I wanted to set up a living room or like a couch in here as well. So we have 1 6-seater, 1 4-seater, which I think is fine because you can really only have 4 Sims live in this building if you're going to go with the residential rental option that I talked about earlier. You can really only have 4 Sims live here, so you don't really need that much seating, but I still wanted to have just like a bunch of seating, and I wanted this to look very lively, and I could definitely picture a bunch of elderly Sims hanging out here together. So yeah, I kind of really wonder how this is going to work when the new feature comes out, when the custom venue feature comes out. I really don't know what that's all going to be about. And I'm especially curious about that senior living situation that they showed sort of really quickly in the trailer as a preset. I really wonder how that works, because I feel like it would be mostly for a getaway or for a place to visit, but those aren't necessarily well, I mean, if you're going for a getaway, then you can stay the night, but you can't really live there permanently. So I'm wondering how they have that set up and like how they are planning to go about that, or what their idea behind that is. I'm just really excited to see. I'm just really excited about the new pack in general. I feel like this one particularly takes so long to come out for some reason, even though I don't feel like they announced it way further in advance than they usually do. But I just feels like it's such a long wait this time around, and I'm just so excited to play with it. Also, if there's anything in specific that you would like to see content on when the new pack comes out, if there's any specific builds that you want to see, by all means, let me know in the comments down below, because I definitely could use all your suggestions and all your inspiration. I'm really excited to see what you're curious about, so by all means, let me know. Also, if you're planning, shameless little self promo plug here, but if you're planning on getting the new pack, pre-ordering it or getting it when it comes out, you can always use my creator code SimmarySims at checkout in the EA app when you get it. It is not a discount code, but it is a free way for you to support me. I make a small commission off of your purchase when you use my creator code SimmarySims, which is listed here under my face cam as well. And there's currently a sale going on, actually. I think there's a sale going on, a September sale, until the 25th, if I'm not mistaken. So if you're planning on maybe not getting the new pack, but maybe getting some other packs on sale, then you can obviously also use my creator code, and that would honestly mean the world to me. So I just wanted to just quickly throw that in there. But you can see that we have moved on to the kitchen, actually, and I was definitely struggling with how to set this up. I don't know why, but it took me a minute to figure out what I wanted to do. I knew that I wanted it to be set up in a way where it's kind of like a cooking class studio type thing. So I wanted there to be at least a couple of stoves. So for now, I just have 2. I think I added 2 more, but now that I'm looking at it, I'm just really unsure if I actually ended up doing that. I think I did though. And then we have an island in the middle with a, just as a little island with some sinks there as well. Oh yeah, there I go with the second or the third and fourth stove, actually, if you're counting. And so we have that, and then obviously I had to place in a couple of fridges as well, so we just have 2. I feel like that should be enough. And a whiteboard as well. I thought that would be so much fun to have in here. I've never actually tried the cooking class option, or like trying to give like a cooking lecture or whatever with that whiteboard from Businesses and Hobbies. So I'm not actually sure if you wanted to give a lecture or a class on the cooking skill, what you actually need, if you need a stove or if you need something else. Maybe it's not even possible. I'm not exactly sure, but I just thought it looked cute here to just have a little cooking class studio set up, and maybe with the new pack with the getaway system, you could set it up in a way where there is additional challenges, like there's elimination challenges. That is the thing that you can do with the new pack as well. So maybe you could do like a cooking show getaway kind of thing here as well. I don't know, I'm just really excited to see how that is all going to work in the game. So we're gonna have to try all that out, obviously. But yeah, here in the kitchen, I'm just really trying to clutter it up. I'm really trying to clutter it up in a way where it looks like Sims can be cooking at the same time. So I set up a bunch of little cooking alarms as well. We have some fresh groceries sitting out there on the island as well. I also wanted them to have a coffee maker as well, so I just placed a little coffee maker out here and some cookies and all the things that they would need for their day-to-day life, because they also just use these kitchens for their day-to-day life, because they don't have full-on kitchens in their studio apartments. They just have kitchenettes. So they have mini fridges and microwaves and sinks, but nothing else. So if they really want to actually cook a meal, then I'm kind of forcing them to leave their little apartment and go on over here and hang out with other Sims and do some cooking, maybe together. I feel like that could be really, really cute. So that's kind of the way I tried to set this up anyway, and I think it turned out so, so fun. I'm just loving this color scheme. I think it is absolutely adorable. And also the blue bathrooms are a lot. You can see those bright blue tiles here. It's a lot, but I really like this color. I think these tiles are from Love Struck, but I could be wrong. I love this color. I think it's so, so pretty. So yeah, here downstairs, we actually just have 2 bathrooms here, obviously for everyone to use. Each studio apartment also has its own full bathroom, obviously. So that's where Sims that live here would be able to take a shower. I don't know, just, whatever you do in a bathroom. So we have those there as well. But I wanted there to be enough bathrooms here also for gameplay functionality. It would just be nice to have that. So we have 2 bathrooms downstairs, 2 bathrooms upstairs. And then after the kitchen and the bathrooms, we're moving on to the second floor. So this is where we have the knitting setup. And I just love this space. I essentially just wanted this to look like a giant living room. I wanted this to be super cozy, just like a family room type thing, but make it a little bigger because I wanted a lot of Sims to be able to hang out here and do some knitting at the same time. Maybe if you wanted to, you could even add a whiteboard to this area as well, and maybe set up like knitting lectures or knitting classes. I feel like that could be a thing as well. It's a little cramped for a whiteboard, but if you shuffle things around, maybe you could place it against that back wall where the windows are. I feel like maybe there's a way to do that. But yeah, I just essentially wanted this to look like a giant living room, cozy, homey kind of spot. And I went crazy with some nifty knitting furniture as well, which is so fun. I haven't used the nifty knitting furniture in a very long time, actually. So that was really fun to use a lot of the shelves and stuff. I'm not using it right now just yet, but I will be in a minute. And I paired it with those couches from Growing Together, which I think looks so fun. They're kind of modern, but also kind of retro and like funky in a way. The shape of them, like the rounded edges and stuff, are just like so fun to look at and so cute. And the blue color obviously was really pretty as well. And then here I started using the nifty knitting furniture, the shelves, the crafting storage. I really wanted there to be a bunch of crafting storage here. I feel like Sims would really just, you know, they don't mess around, these Sims. They're very serious about their games. They're very serious about their knitting and their crafting. You know, I feel like it means a lot to them. So I wanted them to have really nice storage for all their crafty stuff. And then I put a TV on the wall because it'd be so cute for them to be able to watch their soap operas or whatever they watch. Maybe they just want to have some, you know, some autumnal vibes, or maybe like the Netflix fireplace going on that TV. You know, I feel like that would be really cute as well. And I cluttered it up with a bunch of nifty knitting little projects that they're working on. The little stuffed animals, the octopus, the little turtle that I think is just so cute as well, and the penguin and stuff. So all those things, I feel like they would be creating all those things for maybe their grandchildren, maybe their great-grandchildren. I don't know. I just think that that would be so cute and just so wholesome as well. I also gave them a console because, you know, maybe they want to be playing some Animal Crossing in here. We could just pretend that they can play Animal Crossing on that, whatever device they have, like whatever console they have. Maybe they want to play some Animal Crossing, or maybe they want to play some other games. You know, maybe they want to play Sims on the PS. It's really up to them. Because it was kind of funny. We were talking about this when I was building this over on stream, and we were kind of talking about like how when we go to a retirement home, they better have computers, you know, for us to be playing some Sims and all that. And I want there to be a Switch because I want to play some Animal Crossing, you know, that type of stuff. So that's kind of what we were thinking of, and that's why I decided to give them a console. I just thought that that was so cute. And then after that space, we're moving on to the craft room. And this wallpaper that I'm using in here, actually, I've never seen this color before, but this is a base game wallpaper. And I swear I've never seen this particular wallpaper. It is a base game wallpaper that comes in really beautiful muted colors. The butter yellow that I'm using in this build, I think is the same wallpaper in a different swatch. I've never seen this color. This teal that I'm using in here is different than the base game teal that I'm used to using. So it's definitely a wallpaper that came with an update recently, but I don't know what update it came with. Maybe it's not even recently. I've just never seen it before, and I think it's such a beautiful color. So I had to go with that. Maybe it was in the February update or something. That is actually definitely a possibility when they gave us that subway tile, for example, that I'm using in the kitchen, and they gave us those countertops, those base game countertops. Maybe it was in that update earlier this year, and I just completely brushed over it because there are so many exciting things in the February update. If you know, you know. So that could definitely be an option or like a possibility there, but it's a beautiful color. And I thought it was perfect for a craft room or creativity, like arts and craft room here with painting and pottery. I just felt like that would be the perfect color, and it just really works nicely. The lighting in here is so gorgeous too with those skylights. It just works really well. I use a lot of the studio or art studio kit items. I'm forgetting the name for this kit. Art studio kit. I really don't remember. I tried. I don't know. I used a lot of that stuff. I used the easels and then basically all the shelves and little decorations and stuff. It is so perfect, obviously, for an art room or like an art studio. So I just used all of that stuff, and I think it looks really good. I feel like at this point I should try to do a build where I use just base game and kits, because I feel like I wouldn't even be missing a lot. We have so many kits at this point with such amazing items and I use kits all the time. So I feel like that would be a fun little challenge actually, to build a house with just base game and kits. And I don't think I would really feel like I'm missing much. Maybe for kitchen stuff. Well, we do have the kitchen clutter kit, obviously, but then for counters, maybe I would miss some counters from specific packs. But, you know, for the majority of items, I just use a lot of kits. We have so many great ones, especially with those creator kits that are done by custom content creators. We don't miss a lot. So yeah, it's kind of a fun thing to maybe sit down and do at some point. Here outside, by the way, is where I created a little gardening area. I thought it'd be so cute for them to have some fresh produce for their cooking classes or for whenever they're cooking together. So yeah, that's what I did. And Sims can just do some gardening out there. Maybe it's just like a fun activity or like skill building thing for them to do. And then after that, we're actually moving on to the separate studios, and they're really small, especially these first two studios that I'm doing are specifically really small. The other ones are slightly bigger. Those actually do have closed off bedrooms. So those are more like full apartments, except they don't have a full on kitchen. They just have a kitchenette. But for the most part, they're a little bigger. These are very, very small. And when it comes to the color scheme for these ones, I really tried to go about it in a way where it's almost like university housing, where each room has essentially the same furniture pieces, but they have slightly different color schemes, not necessarily for the furniture, but more so for just the colors of the walls and floors. And then for these little apartments in particular, they each have the same color scheme for the furniture and the wallpaper, but they have different colored carpets. I thought that would be so fun because we have this actually also came in the February base game update, this carpet that I'm using in different colors, and I don't utilize it enough. So I thought it'd be fun for these little apartments to just have their, like, each a different color floor essentially. So that's what I went with. And for the rest, they're very sad and beige. Not necessarily sad, I shouldn't say sad, but it's still pretty, but it's just very beige and neutral. I did swap out the color of the wallpaper because this wallpaper was a little bit too cool toned grayish beige, and that's not really what I wanted. So I ended up going for still beige, but like a warmer tone, like brighter looking beige. And I think that looks way better and just like more fresh for these buildings or for these little studio apartments. So that's what I went with. And then this first one obviously has a plum colored floor, which I also think is just really, really pretty. And it's really small, as you can see, but it would work perfectly for one sim, maybe even two sims, I feel like, but I was just pretending one sim to live in each little studio apartment. And then they also have their own bathrooms. I just ended up recording this one though, because otherwise it would be a little bit repetitive, but this one has just a shower. I think all the other ones have a shower tub combo, so they're a little bit more luxurious in that sense. But this one has just a shower and a sink and a toilet, obviously. But I did go for that blue color scheme for all the bathrooms, also for all the apartments, because I just thought that that would be nice and cohesive. So that's what I ended up doing. Then here we have the second apartment. These first two ones that I'm doing actually border the pool area, which is really nice. So they can just walk out their front door and then there's a pool right there. So yeah, these two have their front doors actually off of the outside, if you could say it like that. The other two actually have a little hallway with a shared, I guess, front door. They have a little hallway and then they each have their own door into their own apartments off of that hallway. So I feel like it's kind of nice how it works differently for both sides. But yeah, this is the green apartment, if you will. I did use the same bed from Businesses and Hobbies for each apartment, but in a different color. So the furniture is essentially the same everywhere, but I did have the bedding go with each specific color scheme. And for this one, it was obviously green. And then I'm using a lot of like lighter wood tones and also a, this one's a little bit bigger actually. So this one has a living room that was spacious enough for me to actually also place a bookcase later on. I was definitely struggling with the layout for this one in particular. I don't know why. I think it's because it was such like a square space that I just didn't really know what to do with it layout wise. It ended up working out though. I placed a little half wall by the kitchenette to close off the bedroom space from the kitchen, so it just has a little bit more privacy. Whereas in the other one, I used a actually divider, which worked out really nicely as well. But you can see that I was just kind of messing around with where to place everything. I wanted it to have a dresser, obviously, but then it still looked a little empty. So I just decided to go for a couple of bookcases in here and then also a dresser, and that definitely worked out nicely. I love those bookcases from Businesses and Hobbies. I think those are so pretty. So I actually used a bunch of them in the shared spaces as well in the white color, but I used them in the brown wood tone for this one. And then we're moving on to the final two apartments. These two have a shared hallway, like I mentioned, and I thought that was the perfect opportunity to use some of the Grange mudroom items. Again, a kit. I love kits. I just really like them and I use them all the time. So yeah, I did that. And this third apartment actually ended up also having that same plum color carpet, I believe, because I just really, really liked it and I couldn't get enough of that color scheme. So I used the plum one in here as well. There weren't really any other colors that I hadn't used that sparked that same joy. So yeah, I just went for the plum color in this one again. This one's slightly bigger. So this apartment is going to have a closed off bedroom and also a slightly larger kitchenette. I was debating giving them a full-on kitchen because I definitely had the space for it, but I just decided against it because I just really like the idea of them having kitchenettes and not full-on kitchens. So they're actually forced to kind of use the stoves and things in the community, like shared space. You know, so I'm kind of forcing them to socialize and hang out together. I just kind of enjoy that idea when it comes to these types of builds. But yeah, you can kind of tell here the living room or the bedroom is coming together. It's nice and spacious. And then this one actually has a sliding door to that gardening area as well. So they actually kind of get their own back patio, if you will, even though there isn't really any seating furniture or anything else there. But I feel like maybe the sim that likes gardening the most would be living in this apartment because they are close to the garden, so they can like kind of keep an eye on that garden. I feel like that would be really cute. Actually, for these two bigger apartments, since they have a closed off bedroom, I could totally see a couple live here. So if that were the case, then we would have 6 elderly Sims total living here. And I feel like that would kind of be fun, you know? I wish you could set residential rentals up in a way where you actually have Sims live there, but then the shared space would kind of also function as a community lot, so other Sims would show up, you know? I feel like that would be really fun, like in addition to the Sims that live here. Unfortunately, that is not the case, but in my dreams, that is how this would function, you know? I think that would be so fun. And honestly, I feel like at this point, we really need an elderly Sims pack. We just need a senior living expansion pack at this point. I don't know what it would come with. Do you have any ideas on what an elderly sim, let's call it senior living, you know, working title, let's call it that. What would senior living come with when it comes to activities? I don't know. Let me know what you think. I think it would just be so cute. And actual functional retirement homes, I think would absolutely be adorable to have. One can dream. Maybe it'll still happen. We did get an elderly Create a Sim kit not too long ago, so maybe that is something. We got a pair of dentures in the bathroom clutter kit a while back, so you know, maybe those are little hints towards a senior living expansion pack, but I would absolutely love it. Where can I sign a petition, you know? This is going to be the final apartment here that is also big enough to have its own shared or closed off bedroom, but a little smaller than the one that we just decorated. So this one has a blue floor, and I think that blue color is so fun and bright and just really cheerful. And I think this is my favorite of the 4 apartments. I just really like this color scheme. It is small and cramped, but it's still spacious enough to have a closed off bedroom, you know, so I kind of like that about this one. But that blue carpet is absolutely gorgeous. I know it looks a little silly with the blue tiles in the bathroom, but we're just gonna ignore that. It's fine. I really didn't want to change the color of the bathroom for this one because I just love it so much. But yeah, you can see that we are basically using the exact same furniture in here. Each apartment does get its own rug though in a different swatch to kind of go with the color scheme that we have going on. So that's what I ended up doing. I love the layout for the kitchenette for this one as well, how the little fridge and microwave are separate from the counters. I don't know why, but I just really like how that ended up looking. So that's what we're doing here. I have the space for some additional plants. I could do a little hanging plant in here that I think just turned out really, really fun. Yeah, but that's actually gonna be it. So let's jump into the game and I'll show you the retirement home in real time. So here we have the retirement home in the game. Obviously, I made it fall in my game. I just had to, and I think it looks gorgeous in the fall. Maybe you won't use the pool as much, even though it is still warm here. I feel like San Sequoia is a pretty warm world, so maybe you would still use the pool actually. But yeah, here we have the retirement home. So there's sort of like a driveway here that lines up with the sidewalk. I'm always so happy when that option is there. And then off to the left is where we have the pool. So this is where the Sims would be swimming. They can do some grilling out here or just some hanging out. We have 2 front doors into 2 of the apartments. And on the other side here is the front door into the other 2 apartments. And of course, the door into the retirement home itself, or like the shared spaces, I guess. So over here we have an entry. There's a cork board here with whatever activities and classes and things are going on this week. There are some games stacked here. Over on this side is where we have a couple of bathrooms, because that is very convenient. And then on this side here is where we just have the shared, I guess, hangout space. A bunch of tables and chairs. There's some music in the back. There is a couch set up here with some more games and a book. You could just do some reading. And then through this archway over here is the game room. So this is where we have a bunch of game tables set up. 2 4-seaters actually, and then 2 3-seaters. There is music in this room as well. It got its own little record player and a clock. I don't use this clock often enough. It is so cool. It's from the bowling stuff pack. And this little scoreboard I thought was really fun. Of course, we have the bar over here, by the way, as well. And then through this archway is the kitchen. It is so fun and cluttered. I love this island and all the clutter on it. We have a couple of stoves over here set up and also over here on this side. And then a whiteboard and a bunch of fridges. In the corner is a sliding door onto the back porch or patio where we have a bunch of planter boxes to do some gardening. I thought that would be really fun. On the second floor is the knitting area. I love this living room setup. I think it's so cozy, and this green rug is everything. It just goes so nicely with the color scheme. But yeah, there's just a bunch of crafting items here. We have all these shelves set up. There's a TV. You can play some games here. And it's really nice and messy in a cozy way, I guess. On the side here are a couple extra bathrooms. And then through this archway is the crafting room. So we have a painting area over here. I love all the items from the painting artist studio kit. That's what it's called. It just all goes so nicely. And then on this side is where you can do some pottery. So we have 4 pottery wheels, 2 kilns, so you're gonna have to take turns with those, but I feel like it would still be functional. And then of course we have the apartments. There's 2 over on this side and 2 over on this side. So these are the smallest ones. It's very neutral, but I do think it works out really, really well. I really wanted this to be very simply decorated, so it's not too overwhelming. They just have a kitchenette, a living room, and a bedroom space, and then a little bathroom over here. The same goes for this neighboring apartment. This layout is not my favorite, but it still works. They have a little kitchenette here when you first walk in. There's a table, living room, and then behind this half wall is their bed. And of course, they have a full bathroom over here as well. Then going over to the other side, these 2 apartments share a front door over here, and then they have a little hallway with some extra storage. Over on the left is where we have the largest apartment by far, actually. It's pretty spacious, this one. Hey, where did my door go? Oh no. I think I accidentally deleted that earlier. There we go. There's the door. Much better. I hope it has a door on the gallery, but I think so. Otherwise, it's an easy fix. But yeah, small kitchen over here, bathroom with a door, 4-seater dining table actually, and then, oh my goodness, where did all my furniture go? What happened? It's definitely on the gallery with furniture, because this was not the case yesterday. Something happened, but there used to be a little TV over here. We're just gonna pretend it's still there. And then over here we have the bedroom, which is nice and pink. I love that bedding. I think it's so gorgeous. And then over on this side is my favorite apartment. This blue carpet is everything to me. It's a little smaller, but still spacious. So they have a cute living room setup here as well, with a couple of bookcases, a TV, a kitchen over here, and then off of the kitchen is the bathroom, and a really small bedroom here in the back with this really nicely colored bed, and then a wardrobe, of course. But that is actually it for this retirement home. So this build is up on the gallery as a residential. I thought that would make the most sense, so you can kind of pick and choose what you want to use it for. I do think it would work really nicely as a residential rental if you have for rent, so that's what I would recommend. I built it on a 40 by 30 in the World of San Sequoia on the 13 Acacia Avenue lot. So if you want to place it in your game, then that's where it goes. But that's gonna do it for today's video, so I really hope that you enjoyed this one. Please don't forget to give it a like if you enjoyed it, subscribe if you haven't already, and click that bell if you want to receive notifications every time I upload a video. You can find me on Twitch and on Instagram if you'd like. My username on there is Simmary Sims. Again, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all in my next video. Bye!